Today's Old Testament reading is Psalm 65. Praise is due to you, O God, in Zion, and to you shall vows be performed. O you who answer prayer, to you all flesh shall come when deeds of iniquity overwhelm us. You forgive our transgressions. Happy are those whom you choose and bring near to live in your courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of your house, your holy temple. By awesome deeds you answer us with deliverance, O God, for our salvation. You are the hope of all the ends of the earth and the farthest seas. By your strength you established the mountains. You are girded with might. You silence the roaring of the seas, the roaring of the waves, the tumult of the peoples. Those who live at earth's farthest bounds are awed by your signs. You make the gateways of the morning and the evening shout for joy. You visit the earth and water it. You greatly enrich it. The river of God is full of water. You provide the people with grain, for so you have prepared it. You water its furrows abundantly, settling its bridges, softening it with its showers, and blessing its growth. You crown the year with your bounty. Your wagon tracks overflow with richness. The pastures of the wilderness overflow. The hills gird themselves with joy. The meadows clothe themselves with flocks. The valleys deck themselves with grain. They shout and sing together for joy.
And now from Paul's letter to the people of Galatia, chapter 6, verses 1 through 10. Brothers and sisters, if a person is caught doing something wrong, you who are spiritual should restore someone like that, or like this, with a spirit of gentleness. Watch out for yourselves so you won't be tempted too. Carry each other's burdens, and so you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks they are important when they aren't, they're fooling themselves. Each person should test their own work and be happy with doing a good job and not compare themselves with others. Each person will have to carry their own load. Those who are taught the word should share all good things with their teacher. And make no mistake, God is not mocked. A person will harvest what they plant. Those who plant only for their own benefit will harvest devastation from their selfishness. But those who plant for the benefit of the Spirit will harvest eternal life from the Spirit. Well, let's not get tired of doing good work, because in time we'll have a harvest if we don't give up. So then, let's work for the good of all whoever we have an opportunity to, and especially for those in the household of faith. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Most of you probably know by now that my father is a professional horticulturalist. Basically, he owns a number of greenhouses and has dug plants ever since he graduated from college. He currently runs a fairly big nursery, Phoenix Foliage, located in Winter Garden. Truth be told, he knows a great deal about plants. So should you have any planting or gardening or horticulturing ideas, don't come to me, come to my father, right? I've been often joked as being the black sheep with the black thumb of the family, so I don't have all those answers. But one thing I do know is that whatever we usually plant will usually turn into the tree or the shrub that we want that to from that specific seed. So for simplicity's sake, if we plant an apple seed in the ground, the chances are it's going to grow into an apple tree, right? There are various variations of the plant and the fruit that we might get. But for this purpose and simplicity's sake, that's irrelevant. If we plant an apple seed, we'll get an apple tree. Similarly, if we wish to become a church that is rich in mission, we devote more time, energy, and money towards those missions. If we wish to become a church that emphasizes and cultivates a culture of pastoral care, and then we'll embark on more phone calls, more visits, and more letters, just as the deacons do in the life of the church. And now work in the church is not always this easy or this watered down. We can't plant a simple mission seed and hope it to grow into this amazing mission group that just transforms overnight and we do everything that God's calling us to do. It doesn't really work like that in a church. Besides, it may not always turn out the way we expect or the way we might want to either. But that doesn't mean we should not plant any seeds in at least some form or fashion. So this week we're looking into the overall umbrella of mission work in the life of the church. But this letter to the people of Galatia covers good reasons as to why we should not only be aware, but active in doing that type of work in the life of the church. But before we get a little deeper into that letter and unpack that a little bit more, we're going to take a look at a video that was produced by our own disciples here at TPC. So we'll be showing a video in just a matter of moments of Steve Vanderwolf that highlights a majority of the overarching mission work we do here at TPC. And that's courtesy of the service and mission team led by their elder and chair, Sunday Bales, and the many hardworking people that contribute to that committee to give their time, their money, and their efforts and the sweat equity on mission trips as well. So let's listen to what Steve has to say regarding the mission and service work we do here at TPC.
Good morning. I'm Steve Vanderwolf, and it is my pleasure and privilege to speak to you this morning about service and mission. Why mission work? In Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 through 39, Jesus said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your mind and with all your soul. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." From an article entitled "A Mission-Minded Church" from the PresbyterianUSA.org website comes the words, "Presbyterians believe that the church exists for mission." I couldn't agree more. Therefore, as active disciples of Christ, we are charged to take up what we believe and to act. Mission work is many things: challenging, exciting, anxiety-provoking, invigorating, endearing, exhausting, revitalizing, and loving. In Luke's Gospel, chapter 10, verse 2, "And he said to them, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." Mission work calls us out into God's world, beyond our walls, out amongst our neighbors to reflect his justice. Will you join me in being one of his laborers? The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. TPC is active in places like Hope Helps, the Christian Sharing Center, the Duval Home, and Edgewood Children's Ranch. Also, your ongoing support benefits places like New Life Christian Center in Haiti. In addition, TPCers travel for week-long mission trips. Lately, TPC has worked with Mission Discovery in places like Fort Blackmore, Virginia, Westmoreland, Tennessee, and Dulpin County, North Carolina. This is, without a doubt, the most intensive undertaking in terms of people, planning, and financial resources. This is an area where service and mission needs your continued prayers, encouragement, and financial support. When I think about mission, I think about people. More specifically, I think about relationships. I think about new relationships which form each year, and I think about older relationships which mature and grow. I think about young people, those we meet at the homes we visit. I think about TPC youth who volunteer their time away from family, friends, and summer vacations. I think about Rockney, Harrison, John, Emily, Laura, Cody, and Ryan. And the adults, Sunday, Terry, Carol, Bob, and Susan. I think about Gail, Nathan, Ann, Randy, and Dave. And the homeowners, Joe and Vaughn, Jane, Kyle, and Russ. And those at Mission Discovery, Scott, Grandpa Tim, and the worship leaders, Dave and Matt. I think about Pastor Ken and all those folks at Carolina Baptist in Saline, Louisiana. I think about all those lives affected by the outpouring of the love of Christ. What a gift they all are, and what a gift that I have been given in being able to share such moments together. For 2020 mission trip, which is scheduled for the third week of June, we will return to Dulpin County, North Carolina, to work with Baptists on Mission to restore homes and a sense of normalcy to those affected by Hurricane Florence. Please watch for announcements in the weekly bulletin regarding information and fundraisers. Please help support us in any way that you can. It is of vital importance. In closing, I would like to personally thank the congregation for its ongoing support and to remind everyone that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Will you join us? Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for shooting that video and the Clements recording and editing and producing that. We appreciate all of that with that, so thank you very much. So I want to kind of highlight one comment that Steve made in that, going back to Luke's gospel. The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. This, of course, encourages us to act and advises us that there are, in fact, many ways that we can engage and contribute to the greater community and the church life and to the world. But it's also worth noting that we cannot get to the plentiful harvest without first planting something, right? So somewhere along the lines, it takes action on our part. Or whether that comes in the act of creating with the sowing and planting of the seeds or at the harvest. The decision is up to us, and we're needed at both ends of that harvest and with the labor. So there are quite a few verses that kind of go along those lines from Paul's letter that I would like to focus on, and we find in Galatians. The first being, carry each other's burdens, and so you fulfill the law of Christ. Steve even talks about that in the video, love your neighbor, right? So to me, this speaks of how we are all in this world and in this life together. Granted, we can't carry every single burden that comes our way or every single burden that we might need to bear for someone else. But we can at least do our part to try to carry those burdens of others. Now, this, of course, is carried out in many different ways, one of which is through our Service and Mission Committee here at TPC. Another pertinent voice to point out regarding our perspective in life states each person should test their own work and be happy with doing a good job and not compare themselves to others. So I feel this holds especially true for individuals and churches too. See, on an individual level, we have a tendency to just compare ourselves to others. It's what we do as humans. So in doing so, we might feel inferior or lesser at times that we can tend to do. Similarly, with a church, we might look at other churches and feel like they're more vibrant or they have a bigger worship attendance number count than we do, and overall feel the grass is greener on that other side. But in doing so, we fail to realize the blessings and the good stuff that we have here at TPC. So I've found over the years that it's very hard to quantify the spirituality and the desire for pastoral care or missions, etc., of the people of a particular church, unless we look and see what each individual church is doing collectively in those specific fields and areas. So the question then becomes, what do we want to plant? Meaning, what seed do we wish to sow that will reap some great fruit or benefits later? Of course, these options are numerous and the results are naturally varied. For one, we could plant time seeds. We could volunteer at local charities or at mission events, as Steve suggested. We could become part of a team or a group or a committee here at TPC. Or we could even devote some time to repairing and restoring some of the much-needed building and grounds here at the church, as we heard from Don Nix in this morning, and how much that helps and services the other groups that are found here. Or we could use that time for teaching or preaching or singing or creating videos for the betterment of the life of the church. You see, there are many ways we can plant a plethora of different seeds to make this world a better place with the fruits that we will harvest and reap later on down the line. So I should note that there are many financial seeds that prove to reap great dividends for churches and organizations too. For instance, here at TPC, many years ago, someone generously decided to invest some money into a variety of funds in the name of Tuskawilla Presbyterian Church. That now is our current endowment that continues to grow. Currently, we have it held as a safety net, but one day we may hope to dip into it to begin some new ministries or new groups in the life of the church. But what once started as a small seed has now grown exponentially to hopefully serve us for many years to come. And likewise, our annual pledges and commitments and extra gifts and giving continue to contribute to the overall ministry and life and vibrancy of TPC. And we're grateful for all of them, as we could not exist or function without any of those gifts or the way in which God is calling us to give or contribute. So thank you to you all for your many generous contributions that you have given over the years and continue to give to the life of this church. And I will say we also have to be a little careful of what type of seed we could potentially plant too. Sometimes even the littlest remarks can last a lifetime in the heart or mind of someone else. And so this example took place for me on a youth trip when I was a very indestructible and an invincible teenage boy, right? We rule and own the world. So we would go on these youth trips every summer to Montreat, North Carolina. We'd go for a whole week and just learn about God. It was great. Each day we would worship, have a small group where we met with people we didn't know, and then go back to our back home group, which we had with our friends. So we did this about 3 years. So my junior year of high school, we went on this trip, and every year we had what we called a cry night, where all the teenage hormones and people got together and shared how they were sad or depressed or hurt or feeling bad in life, right? So for 3 straight years, I attended this night, as we all did. And for 3 straight years, I never had anything to share. I just was a happy-go-lucky guy and felt my life was pretty good, and I didn't really have too many things to cry or complain about. And also never cried during those events because my life was okay, right? So come to find out, that year, one of the adult leaders went to my parents and said, we think there's a problem with your son. He said he never shares anything, and we've never seen him cry. So to this very day, I have that little seed still in the back of my mind of maybe there's something wrong with me. Did God wire me incorrectly that I don't cry as much as other people? Or should I have had a harder childhood than I should have? I'm not sure. But that little seed, just that little comment, has always stuck with me. So we need to be careful of the type of seeds that we wish to sow. But ultimately, we need to ask ourselves, what do we wish to plant? Are we hoping for positive and world-changing seeds? Or are we content with mediocre or potentially negative seeds that might exist or get planted too? Or do we wish to plant the seeds of prosperity and potential with our upcoming gifts and commitments for 2020? Or do we wish to contribute more to the life of the church through volunteering or singing or teaching or giving? Do we wish to plant seeds in the hearts of children, of youth, young adults, families, or even older adults as well? You see, there are many different ways we can plant a variety of seeds in the life and the ministry of the church. And so we should be cognizant of all the ways in which we can make a difference, even if it's just with the use of a very small seed that we plant. You see, the smallest of seeds have the potential to grow into the greatest of oaks. In fact, there are many seeds that we've already decided to plant in life. Anytime we engage in conversation, we have the potential to sow a seed, a negative one or a positive one, a healthy one or a toxic one, an encouraging and compassionate one or a discouraging and condescending one. So the same goes for our actions in life. Whenever we engage in the good service and mission work in the life of the church, I can assure you that we are planting seeds of positivity and great potential. So whenever we decide to make a financial commitment to an organization or a church, we're affirming that this place matters to me. I see the potential and I see the positivity in it, and I want God to continue to work through the life of this church. And that is why the decisions of what seeds we want to plant and what seeds we have already planted really, truly matter. On a final note, there was a seminary professor of mine named Louis Zabinden. He was the head pastor at a large church in San Antonio, Texas. He was one of my seminary professors, and I learned a great deal from him over the course of that semester. He gave to me a line, or the class a line one day, and I'm not sure if it was from him or he was quoting someone else, but it stuck with me ever since. He said, "Happiness is enjoying the shade of a tree in which someone else has planted. Joy is planting a tree for someone else to enjoy the shade. So let me say that one more time because I feel it's a powerful quote. Happiness is enjoying the shade of a tree in which someone else has planted. A joy is planting a tree for someone else to enjoy the shade. So to me, that epitomizes what we should do and how we should decide on what we wish to plant. Sure, we could plant something selfishly for ourselves and enjoy the fruits of it. But discovering and experiencing true joy entails planting a seed for someone else to enjoy and benefit from. Like our many mission beneficiaries and groups that we support here around us and across the world. So as we begin this year's stewardship season in anticipation of the 2020 budget, we ask you to prayerfully consider what you wish to plant or pledge for the upcoming year. This stewardship season will last until the end of November, where we will have Commitment Sunday and bring our pledges to bless them and commit them to the church and its various ministries and missions for the upcoming year. But for this week, let us think about the many missions and programs that we support here at TPC. Then let us consider what seeds we can plant and what seeds we might want to plant to find the joy of others relishing and relaxing in our shade. Amen.